Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalamais Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalamais. So today we'll be having a discussion on the newspaper dated 1st of February 2024. So coming to the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper, two articles were important from our exam point of view. First was regarding the rising tensions in the Korean Peninsula. Second is about the Great Indian Internet Shutdown. So all the details about these two articles will be discussed in this discussion. Then coming to the explain section of the Indian Express newspaper, two articles were important. First is the bird flu happening to penguins, and the second is regarding the Gyanvapi Mosque. So these are the four articles which are displayed on your screen that we are going to discuss. So the first article is about rising tensions in the Korean Peninsula. So why this is in news? Because recently tensions are rising on the Korean Peninsula. Why? Because North Korea is ramping up its provocative actions through various means that we are going to discuss here. Again, it is prompting strong reactions from the South Korea and its allies. So recent developments has been that in case of North Korea, it has increased missile testing, including the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which is capable of reaching the US mainland. It has formally declared South Korea as an adversary state, and it has abandoned its very decade-old goal of reunification with the South Korea. That means it has proclaimed that it is scrapping off the decade-old North Korean goal of reunifying the South Korea, and it has rebranded the South Korea as an enemy state. For that reason, it has brought down the landmark monument in Pyongyang portraying the reunification. Here you can see in the picture, and therefore it has enacted also legislation which is allowing the preemptive nuclear strikes on South Korea. So, but in response, South Korea has also done its bit. It has conducted joint military exercises with its allies, that is US and Japan, including the nuclear capable aircraft, and it has also warned North Korea of the end of the regime if it uses the nuclear weapons. So these developments in the Korean Peninsula have raised serious concerns about the deterioration of the internal security environment, and also there is a deepening of the major power rivalry there. So we'll be understanding what is the major power rivalry there. So before that, let's know the possible reasons for rising tensions. So first is because of the stalled denuclearization talks. So negotiations have been happening with the North Korea and the US, but they have been stalled since 2019 with respect to denuclearization. Again, coming to the domestic politics, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, it is trying to bolster its domestic support by displaying this kind of strength. Okay, through making missile testing very frequently. Again, there is a geopolitical competition there. The rivalry between the US, China, Russia, the Sino-Russia axis, okay, together with North Korea and the allies of South Korea being the US and Japan there, they are playing a very important role in the dynamics of the peninsula there. So to understand the geopolitical dynamics more, we have to go back to the history. We have to understand the division and the ideology. So the Korean Peninsula was split after World War II. And what was the outcome of the split? The North Korea came under the Soviet influence, right? So the North Korea came under the Soviet influence and the South Korea came under the US influence. Thereafter, it was a creation of two opposing ideologies. How it was the creation of two opposing ideologies? North became an authoritarian dynastic regime allied with China and Russia, and the South became a liberal democracy allied with US. So there was a creation of two opposing ideologies. And also the Cold War that was there concerning the Russia and the US, it fueled more tensions, leading to the Korean War in the year 1950 to 53, because there was a North Korea's attempt to take over the South Korea. So this was the history, and this is running behind the present escalations. There was some denuclearization efforts as well by the international community. International efforts were aimed to halt the North Korea's nuclear program. US-led 1994 agreed framework was there. It offered nuclear energy in exchange of denuclearization, but it failed. Again, six-party talks happened between the year 2003 to 2009. Six-party as in two Koreas, China, Japan, Russia and US. So the talks happened in the year 2003 to 2009, saw initial progress, but ultimately collapsed. So the crux here is that all the denuclearization efforts are futile. So together with the efforts made towards denuclearization and it becoming futile, the escalation under the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, is adding to more tensions. So he is going for frequent missile tests and military actions. It has increased tensions. The peace talks have failed with the Trump administration that happened in the year 2018-19. That also did not achieve any denuclearization. And moreover, North Korea has been conducting regular, frequent nuclear tests, 6 nuclear tests, and it has developed the delivery systems as well, raising concerns in the whole peninsula. So these are the escalations happening in the North Korea and the South Korea region. Now coming to the current situation, the situation is even more worse now because North Korea is continuously involved in the nuclear missile testing. It is possessing nuclear weapons which is capable of reaching the US mainland, and that itself is a concern for the US mainland. It is testing the nuclear capable underwater drones. HEAL 523. It has tested the strategic cruise missile Pulvasal 331, which is allegedly threatening the critical American bases in Japan. And this it has been doing in retaliation of the joint naval drills of the South Korea, US and Japan. Again, it is also involved in cyber attacks and many provocative actions which is further straining relations. Again, North Korea is about to join the club of hypersonic weapons, which US, Russia, China, India, Iran are working on joining such club. So these are the tensions which North Korea is creating in the whole peninsula. And in response, under the conservative president of South Korea, it is strengthening its military alliance with the US and it is deploying advanced missile defense system. So see, things are happening from both the sides and there is a great crisis situation in the peninsula. So the potential risk can be very, very concerning. Any accidental or miscalculated incident between both the Koreas can lead to a larger conflict. And the nuclear proliferation that is happening in case of North Korea, it is raising concern and it is posing threat to the regional and the global security. And it is also bringing destabilization in the wider region concerning the Northeast Asia. It is bringing regional instability. Again, North Korea more so is drifted towards the Sino-Russian axis. How? North Korea is helping to supply arms to Russia, short-range ballistic missiles in the Russia-Ukraine war. Recently in 2023, Mr. Kim, who is a leader of North Korea, met with Putin in Russia. And also Russia promised in enhancing the North Korea's space capabilities in return of arms supplies. That means North Korea is continuously helping Russia with arms supplies. And Kim's visit to Vyasji spaceport of Russia, this is important from your exam point of view. This name is very, very important where you prepare for places in news for your prelims exam. So these names should be in your notes. Right? So here again and again we are seeing that how Russia, China and North Korea, they're involved with each other. China is also very supportive of North Korea, being the single largest trading partner of North Korea. Again, coming to the January 26 tensions, China's vice foreign minister, it has visited the Pyongyang in North Korea, and it has expressed support to the North Korea. So see how these three countries, they are very much in support to each other. So in the context of these tensions, these ongoing escalations happening in the peninsula, we need to watch for the North Korea's next actions. Whether North Korea will continue the missile testing or engage in other provocative behavior. We have to see for the South Korea's response as well. Will they increase the military cooperation with the US or pursue dialogue with North Korea? We have to see for the international efforts as well from UN or other actors, whether they will be able to facilitate any de-escalation and the dialogue. And these all tensions and escalations, they are coming at a time when world is witnessing the activation of the historically rooted conflicts. For example, Russia-Ukraine war, Israel-Palestine war, again China-Taiwan tension, again India-China tension is also on cards. So in such a scenario, US is preoccupied with conflicts in the Europe and West Asia, and again North Korea is creating a third front distraction for the US. And here China and Russia, they are to gain a lot from these escalations that we need to see, right? So this was all about this topic's discussion. This topic becomes very, very important from your mains point of view. You should be understanding the geopolitical dynamics, which is discussed in detail in this article, right? So next article is about the Vyasji ka tehkhana. So this terminology appears to be very, very important from your prelims point of view. So this can be asked in a match the following, that where it is located. So you should be knowing that it is located in the Gyanvapi Mosque in the Varanasi, India, right? So it translates to Vyasji cellar, that refers to a specific cellar or basement located within the Gyanvapi Mosque complex in the Varanasi, India. Okay, so this becomes very, very important from your this prelims point of view, from your art and culture syllabus point of view. So coming to the historical claims that I've already discussed in the previous discussions, you can watch that. And here I'm telling you the crux, that how the conflict is happening between the Hindu petitioners and the Muslim petitioners. Hindu petitioners, they're asserting that the Gyanvapi mosque was built on a demolished site, on a site of the earlier Kashi Vishwanath temple, which was destroyed way back in 17th century by the ruler Aurangzeb. And they are claiming that Vyasji ka tehkhana, it was a worship space for centuries for the Hindus, where the Vyas family, hence the name Vyasji ka tehkhana, the Vyas family, they were entrusted with the responsibility since 1800s under the British rule. They were conducting the prayers and rituals inside the tehkhana for more than 200 years. But this practice stopped in the context of the conflict in December 1993. Okay, and this claim of Vyasji family conducting the prayers, it has been contested by the Anjuman Intejamiya Masjid Committee, which manages the mosque and emphasizes its historic Islamic character. Right? So this is all about the conflict that is happening between the Hindus and the Muslims. They're claiming that this is their space. Muslims are claiming that it is their space. So in the recent court order in January 2024, the Varanasi court, it has allowed to perform puja there in the Vyasji ka tehkhana. Okay, that is why it was in news. Then we come to the third article. So this article is about the first death of penguins that happened in the Antarctic region due to the bird flu, due to the H5N1 bird flu. So here the concern is about the apocalypse that is nearing. Okay, the concern is about the end of the world. The concern is about the extinction of the species. So it is therefore the first of the species to be killed by the highly contagious H5N1 virus in the wild if it is confirmed to be so. So please remember, in the wild, it is the first case. It is the first of the species to be killed by the H5N1 virus. So there are many factors adding to the susceptibility, adding to the vulnerability of the situation. For that reason, we are anticipating that the virus could attack more and more penguins there. and it could be one of the largest ecological disasters of the modern times. So what are these factors? So before that, you should be knowing that Antarctic was the sole major geographical region. It was one of the pristine polar ecosystems where the avian influenza virus had not been previously identified. But this time, the penguins got encountered with the virus. Okay, and this is for the first time that the penguins got encountered with the virus. Therefore, they lacked the prior immunity in them. Therefore, this has heightened their vulnerability to the virus. Again, second reason is that there is a current breeding season going on. So in this case, that could lead to the fast spread of the virus. And that could be one of the reason for the one of the largest ecological disasters of the modern times. And the pristine polar ecosystems, they are being challenged. They are facing challenges from the avian influenza, avian flu virus, from the climate change impact, from the global warming impact. So this threat of avian flu, it is compounding the existing challenges faced by the pristine polar ecosystems. And according to 2018 study, king penguins in Antarctica could face extinction by the end of the century. So this is marking, this is giving an indication of the apocalypse nearing. We are seeing the threat, we are seeing the extinction of certain species, which is nearing, right? So this was all about. Then the case of polar bear can also connected to this crisis situation, where recently it got succumbed to the avian influenza virus, to H5N1 virus, marking the first recorded case in the species. It was discovered in this place, Udvik. Pardon me for wrong pronunciation, but you should be knowing this place. This place has been emphasized particularly in this slide so that you remember and make note in your places in news. This place can be very much asked in your prelims exam. You should be knowing that it is related to the global outbreak of the avian influenza virus. Okay, so it is an area which is significantly affected by the ongoing global outbreak of the avian flu virus. And coming to the red list status of polar bear, it is vulnerable. And it is vulnerable because of the declining sea ice that is happening due to the climate change and the global warming. Right? So this place is very, very important. Please make note of it. Then we come to the fourth article, that is about the Great Indian Internet Shutdown and how access to World Wide Web is curtailed. So this becomes also very, very important from your GS paper 2 perspective, where a lone question can be asked about the issue. Okay, so why this is in news? Because recently Supreme Court has questioned the Union Territory of J&K, Jammu and Kashmir, about the non-publication of orders for the suspension of the internet services in the UT. So this is one of the concern for the internet shutdown that has been happening. Okay, so we all know what is the importance of internet to the people. It is a good source of information. It is a good source of entertainment, health care, education and livelihood. Okay, and coming to the economic loss in 2020, the Indian economy suffered losses to the tune of $2.8 billion due to the 129 separate instances of the internet suspension, which affected 10 million individuals. So this you should be remembering when you have to write the importance of internet. Okay. So here the case is that while there may be many legitimate reasons in case of government for imposing restrictions in certain situations, the government is having no doubt legitimate reasons for imposing certain such restrictions. But there are concerns about the transparency, about the accountability and the potential for misuse of the power. Right? So that we will be discussing in detail in this article. So there are some recent cases which you should be also knowing when you have to write your mains answer. This is helpful in giving examples for your main subpoints. Okay, so we have seen recently how the restrictions in J&K, they were issued in the wake of the death of hardline separatist leader Syed Ali Shah Gilani. Again, there were also restrictions by the government of Haryana, internet shutdowns by the government of Haryana in 5 different districts following the farmers' protest. Again in 2023 July and August, the government of J&K also suspended the internet services on 5 separate occasions in the districts of Baramulla, Pulwama and Shopian. And to your surprise, that these suspension orders have not been uploaded yet on the government's websites. They are done arbitrarily without any mention in the government's websites, and this is creating a lot of issues. So in the context of these escalations, these tensions, these concerns with relation to the internet shutdown, this case is very, very important. You should be quoting it in your answer wherever you have to write the fundamental rights or regarding the internet shutdown, right? So in this case, Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India case 2020, the Supreme Court has said that access to information via the internet is a fundamental right under the Indian Constitution. And in that very year, the prelims question also asks the same. Okay, and second verdict is that any restriction on internet access by the government, it must be temporary. It is not a permanent feature. It is not a rule. It is not a norm. It is an exception. So it must be temporary. It must be limited in scope. It must be lawful. It must be very much necessary to the situation and very much proportionate to the situation. And the government orders restriction with regard to the internet access is very much subject to the review by the courts. So these three things about the verdict you should be learning by heart, not to write in your. So here we need to understand both sides of the debate. We need to understand both point of view. We need to understand that why government is going for shutdowns, why it is ordering for shutdowns, and again the criticism of the same. So coming to the reasons for the shutdowns, first is that it maintains the public order. So shutdowns are imposed during very crisis situation, during the protest, during the riot, which deems to threaten the public safety or national security. For example, any provocative material on the social media, on the internet could misguide the general public and result in a very worse law and order situation. So to maintain the public order, the government orders for shutdown. Okay, which we have seen in the case of Jammu and Kashmir and the Haryana farmer protest situation. Again, it prevents the spread of misinformation. Again, it prevents the spread of rumors. Okay, so authorities restrict the internet access to limit the spread of rumors or inflammatory content, particularly during very sensitive events like riots, communal riots, or protest. Again, in exam-like situation, in major exams, certain states they have implemented internet blackouts during major exam to prevent cheating. This is also one of the reasons why government orders for shutdown. Then again during election also, okay, election related restriction is one of the reason to prevent the spread of disinformation or influence voting patterns. So these are the major reasons for the ordering of shutdowns by the government. And you can very much give the examples respectively which we just discussed, okay, about the case of J&K, about the various instances of J&K, about now ordering the shutdown and in 2023 and during the Haryana farmers protest. Then let's discuss the criticism of the internet shutdown. So first is that it violates the freedom of expression. It infringes on the fundamental right to freedom of expression and access to information. Then second is the economic impact. Shutdowns, they can disrupt the business, the education, the essential services, leading to economic losses. You can quote this fact of 2020 where the Indian economy suffered losses to the tune of $2.8 billion when there was separate instances of internet suspension, that is 129, which affected 10 million individuals. Okay, so this is how you should be quoting those facts with your arguments. Then it leads to transparency and accountability issues because there is lack of any clear criteria for imposing shutdowns yet. Till now, we have no criteria. We have no clear criteria of imposing shutdowns. Okay, and there is a judicial oversight. Okay, so we are ignoring the Anuradha Bhasin case. There is no such government legislation or any directive from the government with respect to the Supreme Court order. And we have seen that how J&K and Haryana, they have not published orders in their government website. And that is creating an issue that where the aggrieved will go, because they cannot approach a court of law to question the order's legality in the absence of the order. When the order is not there in the public, then how can one go and approach the court of law? So it cannot be challenged because of this lack of transparency. So this is one of the biggest issue over here, that when the government is not publishing the orders, this is why this is in news now. The Supreme Court has ordered the J&K to give an explanation for the non-publication of the orders. Same case with the Haryana. Haryana's social media handle was having the order of internet shutdown during the farmers' protest, but it was not there in the website, in the government's website. So here the situation is that the aggrieved with the restriction cannot approach a court of law to question the order's legality because it is not there in the public. Then again, these non-publication of orders, it will undermine the public confidence in the government. It will create trust deficit. In the case, for example, where union government has not done anything about giving statutory recognition to the direction of the Anuradha Bhasin case. Then there is lack of awareness as well. To your surprise, State of Meghalaya in a reply to an RTI application stated that it was not aware of the judgment of the Anuradha Bhasin. After 8 months also, they were not aware because there is no such statutory recognition by the union government. And this harm which is happening with respect to the internet shutdown, it is not only economic harm, it is psychological harm, it is social harm, it is journalistic harm. Right? So these are the main criticism and concerns you should be knowing while writing your answer. So what should be the way ahead of the situation? So in line with the Anuradha Bhasin case, as the Supreme Court has said that we should be limiting the instances of the internet suspension orders, and we should limit the instances of the orders of internet suspension to only exceptional situation, where there is a dire public emergency case, where there is a threat to the public safety. This is first. Second is that we should be showing more faithful compliance with the Supreme Court guidelines on part of executive government mainly, because we need to get rid of the tag of the internet shutdown capital of the world and fulfill the digital India's potential. So this is how you can use the slogans of the government, the vision of the government in order to conclude your answer, right? So this was all about today's discussion. Again, the short notes of this video discussion will be provided in our Telegram channel. The link for joining our Telegram channel will be provided in the description box. Do join us for such updates and important posts. Until then, goodbye, take care, happy learning.